Hello, we're live and this just finished printing as we went live. Hi from Shenzhen, China. We are coming to you over the Great Firewall using help from the VPN. We'll find out if we stay online for various reasons, including the fact that we are on, I think, hotel Wi-Fi, right? Yeah, okay, we're on hotel Wi-Fi. Aaron is controlling the stream from behind me. We just failed at doing this yesterday, but we didn't get in until fairly late off of a 15-hour flight the night before, and it was like we woke up at 7 a.m. and it was 7:30 a.m. was when we were gonna have to do the live stream. We were just like, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Which is good because we got to spend a day exploring Shenzhen yesterday. So I have actual things to report because otherwise the only thing we had to report was taking the train from Hong Kong to Shenzhen, which was not, I mean, it was honestly so easy and chill that there was almost nothing to report. We do have an outrageous number of pastries for you. One of them is not vegan. The rest are vegan. So the one that I think is like the most, you just got cream on the tripod. Can you swap cameras?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I see that the pastry cam has been switched to. So this was just listed as a Japanese croissant, and it was from this vegan bakery in Shenzhen. This is a traditional Japanese or traditional Chinese fried donut. This is actually just from our hotel because these are always vegan and you usually have them with either soy milk or cow's milk, and you like dip them in warm milk. And so I've already had one of these today, but I figured I'd have another one. Now, this is ridiculous. It's just like a cream bread bun. I think collectively, I don't know if we're going to be able to both finish this. This is from the same vegan bakery we went to yesterday. Super cute. It's run by two sisters. They teach little workshops on like how to be vegan. I don't know. They have some very cute things there. It was in kind of a little, I wouldn't describe it as suburban, but it was like a very much like a residential neighborhood. But in the US, it would be a very mixed use neighborhood comparatively. This is the non-vegan donut, which is just also from our hotel. So, yeah. The letter B is excited about the pastry cam. Thank you for joining. Was there a window view? Did Aaron have this out the window earlier? Is that what was happening? Oh, right now. Wow. We've got a lot of cameras going on right now for considering. I'm doing nothing as far as the tech. I just sat down in this chair. All right. I also brought the donut log with me. So we have a donut log and I printed out pictures of the two vegan pastries. I already have one of these like in the log and it's fine. So but I thought I'd bring it because it is very much a traditional Chinese breakfast donut. I think this is cinnamon flavored, but the English translation just said Japanese croissant. It's sort of like curved like the way you would make challah. Like, I don't know. It's very cute. It did not come in this. This is the orange that came in our hotel, and it's the only plate we have. This room is massive too. This is just like a 2-person room. But it has a whole closet in it as well as like a entry area. Very Asian. I think we should go in with the donut. I think this is like roughly a cinnamon roll. If you can see. It's like a baked cinnamon roll. I guess all cinnamon rolls are baked. It's not as, I feel like I would describe it as like a whole wheat cinnamon roll. It's very bready yeasted bread inside. It's not fried, so it probably technically should not go in the donut log. As discussed, that's what we've decided makes a donut a donut. It's really good. It tastes healthier than if it was fried. This is nice because there's all sorts of pastries at our hotel breakfast that I can't eat. It's nice to come up and have a... Man, this is really good. What are we... It's not a donut.
It's not a donut.
It's so good. I have no...
It's perfect cinnamon and nut mix. That was great.
It's much less sticky. That's the thing. It's not glazed. That's what makes it different than an American donut or American cinnamon roll, is it doesn't have any glaze over it. So I can like eat it with my hands and my hands are not covered in stickiness. And it has walnuts in it. But they're actually integrated versus being mostly on the top. All right. I'm going to say 4 out of 5. Do I have any improvements for what it is, though? Maybe it's a 5 out of 5. 4.5 out of 5. Because it's not fully a donut. I don't think we have our donut logs. Like, I don't think we have our stars available. But we have the log. Can you see that on that camera? Kind of. All right, there we go. Should we eat this crazy cream one? Does anybody want to hear about... Not a donut, but can still be delicious. Fuzz Bubble says, love the view. Probably better than the view of me having just woken up. We've only been awake for like 2 hours because it is 8:30 in the morning here. Okay, we've been up longer than 2 hours. I don't have an excuse at this point. Okay, so what did we do our first day in Shenzhen? So one thing that I was running into when I was doing research online for like things to do in Shenzhen is normally when you look up an itinerary and you'll find like, if you try to look up like 2 days in Shenzhen or 1 week in Shenzhen, for most like cities that have major tourist things, you'll find a Reddit or a Quora thread where someone are like, hey, or some like travel forum where someone will be like, I only have 2 days in Shenzhen. What are the must hits? And you know, locals and other people that have gone there will be like, oh my God, there's no way you can do it in 2 days, but these are the top things that I would say. And I found one for Shenzhen that was like, I have a 10 days in Shenzhen, which is how long I'm here. And what should I do? And someone said that's one of the locals said, that's way too much time. There's not 10 days worth of things to do in Shenzhen, 1 or 2 days tops. And then they said, the highest rated place in Shenzhen is the train station because that's where you get on trains to go to other more interesting places. It's, and I kind of was like, well, whatever. Nobody thinks their own town is interesting. I am finding it very fascinating, especially from like an urban development perspective, because there was almost nothing here. It was a really small town 25 years ago. And now it's this bustling metropolis of 4 million people. The thing that also struck us was we spent most of the day yesterday about, what do we want to say? Like, was it like 8-10 miles outside the city, like the core city? So right now we're in pretty much like the core city area. This is right on the border with Hong Kong. And Fuchen, I believe I'm saying that right, is the like area that we're in. And this is like, it has a lot of skyscrapers. It really looks like a central business district. Of course, there's construction cranes everywhere. But we spent most of the day up in like a different area of town that is maybe about 15, 20 kilometers away from here, like kind of the area that we were up in. And what really struck us was these felt like more quiet residential neighborhoods, but then they would still have a 60-story skyscraper or 3 in them. And it just was very interesting because in at least the west part of North America, that would be extremely uncommon. Like, some of the biggest cities on the western part of North America, like Vancouver, BC, they do not have skyscrapers, 15 kilometers out from the CBD. And so it just was very different. We kept walking around wondering, why can't we have this? Why can't these developments be made and be this level of successful in American cities? And Aaron kind of reached a conclusion. It must be because of cars, because we were walking around. Is it a very planned city? Yes. So it is very planned. Everything in China is very planned, I would say. But Shenzhen is particularly interesting because it is a special economic zone. So it's one of only 3 cities, the other 2 being the biggest ones, the tier 1 cities, Shenzhen and Shanghai, that it is the only other city that is controlled by the CCP. So the central government is in charge of the planning, the development, the funding in Shenzhen, which allows things to move very quickly because when the central government wants something done, it happens. It also means that they're not China can do development very fast, which is just how it works in a command economy. But in normal provinces outside of the top tier cities, outside of the tier 1 cities, they usually require the way the government funds things is the provincial government will essentially sell the land rights to developers. Though the selling of those portions will allow them to raise taxes to be able to do the kind of development. And because the central government has really prioritized growth, there are different sort of incentives for local governments. It's very similar to what happens around a lot of the world. So China, its exceptionality is that when the central government sets a priority, they remove essentially all barriers to getting that done. And they have set a lot of urban development barriers. Now imagine that you don't have that layer of government. You don't have the provincial government. There's obviously some downsides to having the federal government control your town and the central party control your city. But the upside is that Shenzhen has been a special economic zone since the early 2000s. And because of that, it has now a metro with 20 lines. It had no metro since 2004. And now it has one of the top 10 largest metro systems in the world, which was fast, clean, efficient. The metro was excellent. Do you have any thoughts, Aaron, as someone who was on the metro yesterday?
No, it was great.
It was great. Yeah,
Clean, fast.
It was so clean, so fast, safe. You do have to, at every stop that we went to, which we went to a handful, I think we went to 6 or 7 stops, you do have to put your stuff through security. We did have trouble. Payments are always a pain. Payments and maps are a pain in the butt for foreigners in China, and it isn't just the language barrier, it's the Great Firewall. They even can be a lot of trouble for Hong Kongers and people from Taipei as well, because everything is tied to being part of the mainland China bank accounts, and they have a lot of, it's really challenging. Last time I was not able to set up WeChat Pay at all, but here everything is Alipay WeChat. I haven't seen a dime of cash anywhere. No one uses cash, and we were able to set it up with our foreign cards, which was not possible last time I was here 7 years ago. But we still are very limited. So, they have a social credit system here where essentially it's like a credit score. It's relatively new. It had been trialed, but about 10 years ago, but now it's almost fully implemented or close to fully implemented. So the social credit system means that essentially you have a credit score tied to your civic activities and whether or not you're employed and whether or not you litter, and combined with a pretty heavy surveillance culture by the government, that means that people can lose credit score for doing things that are considered antisocial behavior. I don't want to get too far into that because I want the stream to stay online. But the other part of that was that we ran the risk of, we had this, can I play clips? No, we don't have an Apple TV here. I don't have the ability to play clips. Okay, so we were at this like gorgeous nature reserve built up on the edge where you could see Hong Kong and you could see other parts of Shenzhen. Very long. Like, how long would you say this sea walk was?
Oh, I think it's like 10 kilometers.
Yeah, it's like 10 kilometers. It's quite long. And, then it had like a nice natural forest and everything. There were all of these little vending machine stands. And we were like, oh, great. We can just get water out of the self-service vending machines. And they weren't the kind of they're the kind of vending machines where you like reach into I don't want to say they were locked until you paid, but you could theoretically, if you wanted, swipe all of the waters because it was like one of those little fridge things. We both tried with both Alipay and WeChat, and we did not have enough of a credit score, even though we'd been paying for things all day and they were linked to credit cards. It essentially told us like, yo, we don't trust you enough to get water out of this unmanned fridge. So yeah. Tier 1 city, is that a formalized ranking? Yes, it is. So the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, I don't think there are tier 4s. People are essentially tied to their city. So the same way that we in the US will have, and everywhere in the world, will have undocumented immigrants working without paper. That can happen in China for Chinese-born people that are born in a different province, because a lot of people will move in to to big cities, right? A lot of people will leave their ancestral homes. Often their grandparents will take care of their kids if they have kids, and then they'll come and work in bigger cities. However, everything in China is tied to your residence system. So you will have a residence permit for the city and the province that you live in. And for the top tier cities, it can be almost impossible to get those. So getting the equivalent of a green card for what we would call a green card in the United States, but a permanent residence permit for a city that isn't your ancestral city, if it is a top tier city, so a tier 1 or a tier 2 city, can be almost impossible. And if you're anywhere in the world, if you're super rich or famous, it could be a lot easier to get one of those residence permits. And so you end up with people that are not able to get legal working papers when they move into a big city, and they essentially are working undocumented. So they might be selling lottery tickets, they might be selling water bottles or doing food vending, any of those sorts of things. At least in Shenzhen, just to be clear, there is very few touristic areas here because it's just not a huge tourism city. It is very much a business city. But there is just not, we've not seen open and visible homelessness anywhere. And it isn't, I think, because it's been swept out of the central cities. It has to do with the way that China approaches security. But you can also tell that there are people very much from the, different class tiers, right? And there will be people that are working off paper where they're undocumented on their residence permit, and it means that they don't have access to certain kinds of housing, because most housing is tied to your residence permit. It means that they don't have access to above board jobs, the same as it does in most countries when you're undocumented. And it means that their kids are not eligible to go to the main schools. And that can also happen for people that have that do have a work permit to be in a different province. If they do not have the permanent residence permit, their kids cannot be enrolled in the school for free, because that's essentially supported by the provincial government. Or in the case of a top tier city, it's just that there's more people that want to be permanent residents of that city than are available. And so if you are born into Beijing, Shanghai, to parents that are also Shanghai or Beijingers, because it's not birthright citizenship, right? So like, just because if your parents are not from Beijing and they're working and you're born in Beijing, then it's all tied to your family. So it's all tied to the male head of the family. So if they don't have a residence permit or a work permit, then you will not be able to go to the public schools. So it means that people that actually are born Beijingers, born Shanghaiers, born in those tier 1 cities. I believe Wuhan is a tier 2 city, and Shenzhen is a special economic zone, so it's like this whole other kind of thing. But because the central government controls it, let's put it in a tier 1 as far as the access to things. I don't think it is technically a tier 1 though, because it's in this special economic zone category. So if you are born, you will go to the best schools, because Shanghai, Beijing, Shenzhen, they have the best public schools. They have the best public institutions. They have the best public healthcare systems, all of that. So very much there is still, despite, this being a communist place, there still very much is that strata and that class in society, and it comes down largely to where you were born and what you had access to. What determines a city's tier? GDP or equivalent? No, the central government. Everything's done by the central government. So what the CCP determines is a city's tier. But a city that you, as a foreigner, have not heard of is not going to be a tier 1 city, if that makes sense. I think officially there's only 4 tier 1 cities. A lot of it has to, it could be a proxy for GDP, but that isn't actually what determines what tier 1 cities in China. Okay, no, Shenzhen is a tier 1 city officially. And Guangzhou is the other one. So there's 4 tier 1 cities. There's cities that are distinct from the new first tier cities, Chengdu, Hangzhou, and Chongqing, which are rapidly developing but not traditionally classified within the top 4. That source coming from China.org. Cars make sense. Well, the thing that was interesting is this is where we were really discussing it, because there's this new development. It's called Overseas Chinatown. I don't understand why. Still haven't figured that out. It's called the OCT area. It's a very cute neighborhood. They had this trendy little artist area called OCT Loft. I wish I could show you guys clips because it was super. So wait, hold on. What am I describing? Okay, so there's OCT Loft, which is this little artist area that has a bunch of small businesses, cute, trendy coffee shops, and was it car free? I think technically there were mopeds coming in and out, but I think it was mopeds only. So that we didn't see any cars. But it was just a nice little walkable area. And then there was another sort of, I would describe it as more upscale. It wasn't the richest neighborhood, the OCT, but it definitely was not the poorest. It had the DJI flagship store, which was a giant weird pyramid triangle. And there was also a, how would you describe it? How would you describe the place that we were at last night walking around by the DJI store, which was technically OCT? but I think it was something Bay. Like, it kind of felt like a little economic Disneyland. Like, that's the American view of it.
Outdoor mall.
The American view would be outdoor mall, but it was an outdoor mall that was like mixed integrated. Like, there was some residential in it. There was a museum. There was a shopping, like a proper supermarket. There was a bunch of restaurants. There was like some carnival rides, and there was a place where like water shows would happen. And it was all just like a public outdoor mall. It was maintained with the level of cleanliness and standards that you would see only in the ritziest suburban outdoor mall in the US, I would say. Do you think that's accurate, Aaron? So you're getting me and Aaron's view of this, but like, to me, it felt like a Bethesda, Maryland like outdoor shopping mall. It did not feel like something that you would see in a city. And then the biggest thing was that it was car free in the parts that we were walking in. There was occasional mopeds, mostly bicycles, but mostly it was just a walking area. And then there was this little, I wish I had a video of it, because it was like a train, but a train. This is why I said Disneyland, because it was like all lit up, and it was clearly because you had a tired toddler and you could not get them to walk anymore, and you didn't have a stroller with you. And I think it would loop around and take you to either the metro station, but there was a parking garage. And that was what was interesting to me, because I was like, why can't we have stuff like this? Like, why don't you see this stuff in central cities that is bustling? We were there on a weekday, and it was like filled with people going out all day, like very multi-generational. We saw lots of parents with toddlers there. We saw young people that were like out taking selfies, getting milk tea. And then we saw like grannies that were going out, doing their little power walking, hanging out. It was very multi-generational. And those kind of spaces that exist that would be filled with that many people on just a random weekday evening, they're so rare in the US. Like, to see that kind of space, well-maintained, cleaned, all of that, very, very unusual in the US. And I think largely that has to do with cars and the car-centric culture. But people do have cars here. Have we seen any self-driving cars? Yes, I've seen one or two on the street, but there's just not a heavy amount of cars in most of the areas that we've been in. We've been taking the metro because the metro is great, and the metro is very filled. Most of the taxis here are mopeds, and they are not driverless. They're very much driver forward. We had last night, actually, when we were coming out, as people, I think, were getting out of dinner in this little OCT Bay area, there was a line of regular taxis, and they all appeared to have drivers. They did not look like self-driving. There's been quite a few Huawei, we've seen 2 or 3 Huawei dealerships since we've been here, and they have like quite a few self-driving cars. Something that I have noticed, I have not seen a single gas-powered car. I have been looking, and I haven't seen a single gas-powered car.
We did pass a gas station.
We did pass a gas station, so they must exist. I only saw mopeds going in and out of that. I didn't see any cars. Not all the mopeds are electric. A lot of the mopeds are electric, which is really nice, because the mopeds we could not figure out what was pedestrian and what wasn't. Did you hand this to me because I can now play clips? It seems like the rest of the world can have nice things. I mean, I don't want to frame it exactly as this, because I think it's more complicated than that, but I would say that the nice things, the things that are really beautiful about being here, some of them have to do with the ability to do central planning that does not prioritize single-use automobiles. I would say the other reason is because there are trade-offs that come with regards to human rights and ability to, make certain kinds of choices in your life. One of the big cases, actually, I'm going to not talk about this till I get back to the States, because I would like to be let out of the country. Clint, oh, it's great to have someone here that can speak to this. I have 5 kids, half Chinese. Eldest 2 became permanent residents of Guangzhou, a lot easier because they were born there before their mom became a PR in Australia, and she's still a citizen of China. Interesting. What was the process for getting them? Were they born in China or were they born in Australia? And what was the process like for getting them? It became a lot harder because China doesn't allow dual, but I feel like being a permanent resident would be different. Could the cleanliness be tied to the low wages of people who do those jobs? I think that could be something to say for that. I mean, something that I have noticed, I know that China's economy is not doing as well, and I know that youth unemployment is like really high. Like youth unemployment right now is in the 40% range. So youth being those that are not in school that are seeking work between the ages of 18 and 25, that unemployment number was so large that the Chinese government stopped reporting it last year or maybe 2 years ago. And also like if you go onto Chinese social media and you look at videos from young people, like you can really see that there is a lot of like economic stressors and worries among young people. It's very hard for a lot of them to find jobs. Apparently now people in China are paying to save face with their families. They're paying to have an office where they pretend to work in, which is like a fake work office to essentially get their families off their back. This is a thing in China. But this is all coming back to the low wages of people that do those jobs. I think there's a combination of things. One, the high amount of like control and enforcement means that you don't get littering. You don't get what other sorts of things? Like we haven't seen very many like street vendors in banned areas. What other kinds of things do you like feel like contribute to like the uncleanliness of a city? You don't see like begging pretty much at all. I've seen no one begging, which is really a big contrast from other countries, including countries that do have communist governments that do not have the same level of economic development as China. So some of it comes down to the ability to have, like, for the society to have money. So I think there's something to be said for that. You pretty much like don't see camping, begging, and I think that maybe has to do with the large consequences for that kind of behavior. What other things do you think make a difference in those? That's an interesting question. I don't know something I noticed 7 years ago when the economy was doing much better in China and I was in Beijing and Shanghai was that the government there, it will just employ people just to keep them, they can just make more jobs, which is what happens when you have a command economy. And Beijing and Shanghai, similar to Shenzhen, are controlled by the central government and are tier 1 cities. And they're like the ability to just give people jobs. One thing I really noticed, like the Beijing subway, it had a person assigned to every single door. Like there was a worker assigned to every single door. If you took like the regular articulated bus system, there would be a conductor collecting fares, there'd be a driver, and then at every single one of the bus stops on the BRT system, which meant that it had like dedicated bus stops, right? Versus like a bus where you would pull and pull a cord and then get off. Those systems had sometimes 2 or 3 people staffing each bus stop. And these were just, regular BRT systems. And that's what happens when you have access to that kind of level of resources from the government to just create employment. So I think that has something to do with it. I would say the wages are not nearly as low in China for the lowest paid workers as especially in the top tier cities because people just can't afford to stay here if they don't have like a permanent resident permit and they don't have kind of a higher paying job. So I mean, I think every city in the world relies on lowest paid workers to preserve and maintain a lifestyle for the upper class people. I want to know how people pay for a fake office we can work. Yeah, it didn't seem like it was that expensive, but yeah, if you're not getting any employment, money from employment. I can't wait for the debrief. Yes, I would be very curious about Clint's experience with getting this. Okay, what clips can I show you? We went to, what things did we do that were like culturally interesting? I mean, the subway yesterday was great. Is this playing? Yay, nay, it is? Okay. What, I also got a vegan egg waffle.
Egg waffle.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be really tiny,
thought it would be
and then it
one
was
tiny.
giant. This is from this vegan bakery. This is the same place that all of these came from. But this was one of these neighborhoods where I was like, never would we have this tiny suburban neighborhood that has 60-story towers next to this bakery and this little shopping mall. Also, the shopping mall seemed to be very like DIY lifestyle because there was like pickle your own vegetables store, keep your own chickens and ducks store. Okay, this is the artist neighborhood that we were in. There was like weird works of art everywhere. It was so cool, but there was tons of public plazas, and you can see how there was essentially like no cars. You don't even see a lot of mopeds going through. It was very much this, like, everything. There were so many cute cafes that I was like, well, we can't drink enough coffee for all of these. But you can see how it was kind of like, as we approached it, there were tons of mopeds on either side. The sidewalks here, you really got to fight the, oh, this is another, this was a nearby neighborhood, but it wasn't in the official, like, little car-free artist block neighborhood. Oh, cat spotting, very important. These kitties own this block. There was a whole situation going on. This kitty wanted to fight with another kitty who I don't think you can see in this photo. This was something that was really interesting to me because there were so many public spaces. Like, this is just like a random little 1-block park. And something I noticed, there was these like fairly aggressive bollards at the edge of it, like really close together as far as aggressiveness, but they all had flat tops. And they were close together because they were meant to prevent mopeds from going into this central park area. But that was a thing I kept noticing, was that there would be bollards and there would be seating places in nice parks, nice clean parks that there never would be in the US. If you were in a fancy, like upper middle class park that was this built up, there is no way that it would have bollards that allowed people to sit, unless it was like only accessible to residents of that neighborhood, because they don't want people to, I don't know, sit and take a load off or sleep. And there's benches everywhere. That has been what is really interesting to me. And I think for me, the thing that I kept coming back to is like, oh, of course there's these great accessible public spaces because it's just cats. Oh yes, this cat had a McDonald's hat on. I'm just going to show you cats now. These are our floofs of the week. This was the Chinese hot pot place, and they were very sweet. Also, I have to tell you, live translation apps are the most amazing thing in the world, and they've gotten so much better than last time I was here 7 years ago, especially because I know like functionally 5 words in Mandarin. It has been amazing. Like at the hot pot place, she had to explain to us, there was so much food. You can really see all these little dishes that they gave us. everyone had different cooking times, and she explained every single thing and what it was and how long the cooking time was, and even like what region it was from and if it was seasoned. And then the chef came out and I translated into my phone, like so that it would speak to him. I said, hey, it was delicious. Thank you at the end of the dinner. And we ended up having like, what would you say? That was like a 5 or 10 minute long conversation on the live translation app. Where he just asked me questions about like how many people are vegetarian back in the US and like how common it is and whether or not vegetarian is being like is the same as being vegan. They were a Buddhist, they were a Tibetan hot pot place, so they were all like Buddhist. But they did use the 5 pungent spices, which it's very interesting where uses the 5 pungent spices and where it doesn't. If you're not familiar with this, in some forms of strict Buddhism eating, you won't have alliums. So you won't have garlic, onions, leeks, shallots in your food because there is a belief that those 5 pungent spices interfere with your ability to meditate. Well, okay, so that McDonald cat lived inside of a photo studio there where it was like, had a bunch of little outfits. And we noticed outside of that place, there was a pet photo studio. Let's see if I can find if I took any pictures of it. Because there was a whole place that appears to be a place that just has a bunch of costumes, and you bring your pet there and you dress your pet up in costumes, and then they can it's a photo studio explicitly for pets. And it also appears that if you didn't have your own pet, you could just come take pictures with the animals who lived there in costumes. That is our best understanding from translating the rules and observing with our eyes. I don't know if I see any pictures of the... Did you take any photos of the... Oh, I don't know if I can. But look how cute all these little cafes were. There was really an abundance of cute cafes. But also like a mall that just had super fancy restaurants and that had this much public seating, it's really hard to conceive of. I know it sounds just so strange for me to be harping on how much public space there is, but I think it's the capitalism part of my brain is just like, how could you have a city so focused on economic growth and development and then allow for free public spaces everywhere that are nice? But I guess when you're a communist society, you can. Eligible for Chinese travel documents any longer. The eldest two essentially have a Chinese passport type document, Chinese travel document that made applying for permanent residency in Guangzhou easier. Born in Australia, if she became a citizen of Australia, then she'd lose Chinese citizenship. Rules changed after our second born, and now kids of Chinese female who has a permanent residency in another country are not. Oh, interesting. The Chinese consulate, whereas myself and the youngest 3 need visas if staying longer than 30 days, which we have 5 years. So the eldest 2 will never need to apply for a visa. Interesting. Yeah, I know that China, because they don't allow dual, you need those kind of Chinese passport. I didn't realize that now they have that kind of exception for kids of female Chinese citizens. You can pretend to have a pet to go with your fake eyes. I mean, I think some of that has to do with, like, obviously social media. People are obsessed with social media here. They're obsessed with social media everywhere. But I would say in China, they rank very high in their love of social media. But I think the office culture and that kind of fake stuff has something to do with saving face as well. Oh, we hear her voice in the video and her talking live. Oh, thanks. The audio. Erin has fixed it. That looks like our airport. Yes, but those are spaces that you pay to get into. But yes, I think you've nailed it. That's why I was saying, like, you would only have that kind of level of, like, public seating without the anti-homeless measures being taken in the seating if it was a controlled space. Something I do find interesting is that apparently there just aren't that many public playgrounds for kids here. There's a lot of places for seniors, like outside of the little cultural centers, for seniors to work out. Theoretically, anybody of any age could work out, but it's really only seniors that seem to use it. We did see a lot of people that were on their phones while getting their back scratched by various machines and trying to like work knots out of their back. And at all of them, I went, I don't think that's how that's supposed to be used, but okay. But someone I follow who is an American with a Chinese kid who lives in Wuhan, she was saying that most of the playgrounds, there's really nice playgrounds for kids, but they're all as part of the like residential complex. So it'll be a complex with like a couple skyscrapers that people live in, and then there'll be a huge walled courtyard, and there'll be really nice playgrounds inside, but there's not nearly as many public playgrounds for kids, which I thought was kind of interesting. Because for some reason in the US, we view that as a public good that we will fund, is playgrounds. Is there any other... Oh, I kind of want to just show... Oh, yeah, here you can see how... Is this on the screen?
I've got paused.
Oh, can you make it go? Also, we should probably eat this cream bread. Yeah, it was impossible to figure out which side was meant for walking and which side was meant for bicycles. This side does appear to be the walking side because it has the little articulated domes that you use for canes for mobility devices. But this was the most people following the rules, I think, that we experienced anywhere. More metro. Okay, something I found very interesting. A lot of seagulls. You can see how small it was. So smoggy. The air quality didn't feel that bad during the day, but it was like 77 AQI, which is not like ideal, but it's not terrible. But I don't know what's going on with these seagulls, but there is a whole industry of people that will offer to take your photos with the seagulls. A very easy little business to set up. So there's all these guys that hang out with a tablet displaying the photos that they've taken before, and people come and dress up, and it seems like the dress up was wearing white dresses. This person was wearing these incredible angel wings, and then a dude with a DSLR and a ring light will take your photo with all of the seagulls on the rocks. And there was probably like, I want to say 15, mostly dudes, that had little tablets and a DSLR hanging around their neck, and they would try to like convince you. It was actually the most tourism-esque like hotspot experience that we had yesterday. But it was all concentrated in this one area, and they were clearly not looking for foreign tourists. It was like, these are Shenzhen residents who have decided to come get their photo taken down on the water. We've not, outside of our hotel, because we're staying in like a big hotel complex, outside of our hotel, we've seen very few foreigners. I think there's a lot more foreigners in the, like, other Asian foreigners. Okay, this was the crazy little train that went around this fancy neighborhood, and this was them taking down a carousel in the most terrifying way I've ever seen. Unfortunately, I did not get a video of that. I think Aaron did, but 4 dudes just pulled this carousel down. But this is this whole little walking area in this bay. There's always little lights. And we were just like, why can't we build one of these? Like, you know, the mall that I skate in is getting torn down, and they say they're going to make it this mixed use retail development. But I just couldn't, I was like, why can Shenzhen support so many like malls and nice areas, and we seemingly cannot succeed at it. This is just a bunch of pictures. There was LEDs everywhere in this place. Yeah, but you can see how there's always like weird light videos and everything. This was all decorated for Lunar New Year, which just happened like a couple weeks ago. It was just a very different experience. It also was very oriented around like access to the metro. There was always signs that pointed you back to the metro stops and everything. I didn't see a single sign for the parking lot until we were apparently right there. And I was like, wait, there's a parking lot right there? Oh, and that's going back to the metro. But this was like the 5-kilometer long walk. Also, the cycling and the walking was supposed to be separated, and that was not true. I was trying to see if I had any other pictures of the nature reserve, but I don't think I did. I took a picture of that person's shoes because they were cool. That's it. All right, should we eat this thing? And then we've been streaming for a long time, so. Any other questions or suggestions? Because we've got another 9 days in Shenzhen. Aaron has to do work starting this weekend, but we're gonna go to the electronics mall today. We'll probably vlog it. Maybe. We went to the DJI flagship store yesterday. But we were hoping the prices would be lower in China because they're made in China. And it's a Chinese company, but they do not appear to be lower. Should I go for it? This is unidentified cream bread from the vegan bakery. It's like so integrated. I can't really like, it's so big too. Here. Wow.
That's how you're supposed to eat it.
How are you supposed to eat it?
You're supposed to slice it.
You're supposed to slice it?
Oh no.
It's falling everywhere. It's gonna look really suspicious for the housekeepers. I could demolish that myself. Man, the bread is excellent and fluffy. We don't have a fork is the problem. I don't know if the stir stick is gonna be, Aaron, I don't think the stir stick is the way to do it. Here, do you want a stir stick piece? It's really good. It's the bread is light and fluffy. Like the major parks in Manhattan, do they have artists who will make pastel or pencil drawings on demand? I haven't seen that yet, but I know that it exists, but that seems like the kind of thing that would be its own storefront here. You also got some in your pants. Yeah, it's very hard. This is great. There's no redeeming nutritional value to this. I don't know. I can't tell you what the cream, it's coconut cream, right? I think it tastes coconutty enough. I think it's a coconut cream with a fluffy bun. It's not going to make it sound good, but it's very much the consistency of a hamburger bun. Like, but it's good. Right? Wouldn't you say that it's very hamburger bunny? I think the pencil drawings are not as exciting here because Everybody wants photos for social media. I did see a place that'll draw you with your pet, though. I saw it on social media, though. I didn't see it in person yet, but it was a storefront. There's so many cats. All the cats look very well taken care of that we've seen thus far, too. Something that I was not able to figure out what was going on was, as we were on the metro, there were a bunch of older women, aunties, that were getting off work, and they were all wearing vests and hard hats and carrying a large white 5-gallon bucket. And there was a bunch of them, and they were not dirty in any way. Like, they didn't look like they had been, and it was the end of the workday. It was very clear they were getting off work. They didn't look like they had been like doing heavy construction, but they all had like construction equipment on. We were not able to figure it out. We did see volunteers that work on the metro, and they were, the one that I saw was an older granny lady, and she was wearing a little vest, but she wasn't wearing a hard hat. And then we saw right across from the DJI store in that overseas Chinatown area, there was a booth that was open at like 8:30 p.m. that was information about volunteering. And it was staffed by 2 people. It was entirely in Chinese, so I don't have any information like why are people volunteering. But that might somewhat account for the, I don't know, keeping people employed situation. Is it like a retirement activity? The idea of volunteering for my government seems very confusing to me. But I don't know, maybe if the government had lifted a country out of poverty in 2 generations, 1 generation, I would feel differently about volunteering for the government. All right, I think that needs to go. Anybody have any advice of things that we need to do? What am I rating that cream bun? I mean, I demolished it. As it was said by the letter B, I did demolish it. I don't think it's a thing I would order for myself because I tend to like heavier breads as opposed to lighter breads. That being said, it was really freaking good. I could see on a hot day when you're out in the shade, this would be an excellent option. I'm going to say...
I'm pretty sure I've had that non-vegan before, and that was a very accurate version of it.
Well, I think we had a vegan version in Japan. Because remember we went and it was like, oh, here's the traditional cream bread, and they're like, it's naturally vegan. Banana? It was made with banana, right? The one that we had in Japan. We had it near the temple. Oh, yeah. Do you remember this? Yeah. If we dig through our camera roll, we could probably find it. I also can't tell you which trip to Japan it was, so I have clearly not narrowed that down in my mind. Erin and I have now been to enough different places in Asia in the past couple years that we have been trying to recall things, and we can't even remember what country, let alone what city it was in, which is kind of a bummer. We'll both like clearly recall the thing and then not be able to place it, which has been mildly frustrating. You volunteer for community, not for government. Yes, but if all community organizations are run by your government, because like all of the government is like what runs all like the senior centers that provide all like the healthcare for like, you know, vaccines, checkups, all that kind of stuff for seniors, that provide like all those little workout spaces and like the mahjong. That's all run by the government. So that's surprising to me given how much you document things. Well, I'm very bad at editing finalized vlogs, so that might be part of the problem. Well, here's the thing. That's why I was like, we could probably figure out where we had that, because I almost definitely took a picture of it in Japan. The question is, where I'd have to go through my camera roll. Well, it has been lovely to hang out with you all. I probably will do this on the normal Tuesday, 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 in the morning Wednesday next week. But we'll kind of see. What was nice about doing it at this slightly later time. It seems like a lot of people were able to make it with not a lot of notice. I didn't want to guarantee anything because we were really striking out yesterday morning. It was pre-coffee when we were trying to figure it out, so that might have been part of the problem. But it seems like it held the entire time. And Aaron was even able to, we've got like 5 cameras. I don't know, everything's working. So hopefully we'll do it at the same time next week. But the 8:30 did work for us because we were able to go down for hotel breakfast before it got busy. So, well, I hope I will have more of a report for you next week. And maybe some of the questions that have come up about the Chinese economy, I can find the answers to for you in the next week so that I have filled in some questions. Maybe you have to have a certain amount of volunteer time. I think it's probably likely more a social pressure sort of situation, although I could see it being part of the social credit system. Oh, needing to volunteer if you're not working and you're retired, getting pressured into the volunteering. I mean, I think volunteering is great. It's very hard for my Western brain to comprehend volunteering for the government, which is funny because we have volunteers that work for the government in Portland too. We have volunteers that do like neighborhood emergency cleanup and stuff like that. So they do exist even in the States. All right. Until next week. Oh, should I ask people to tell me what they're looking forward to? I don't know how many people we still have left in the chat. Tell me what you're looking forward to this week. What am I looking forward to? I'm actually really looking forward to the electronics market today. I also might take a day trip to Macau because it is very close by either high-speed rail or ferry, and it technically counts as a different territory. So I could take a day trip to it and knock off another territory in my quest to go to 100. It counts as a separate territory because it's a special administrative region. Counts as a separate territory under the Travelers Century Club, which is the group of rich people who have the hobbies of going to countries list that I use to determine which countries I've gone to. They have like 3 categories. They have like UN recognized countries, things that are not UN, but they're like observers. And then they have their own much longer list that has like 176 more that are territories that are economically, geographically, or culturally distinct from the main countries. So, you know, Siberia, Yakutsk is considered a separate territory. Macau is Hong Kong, Taipei, all of those things. Looking forward to some reading this weekend. Oh, that's great. I haven't actually started. I downloaded so many books on my Kindle, and then I spent, of the 15-hour flight, 1, did not sleep enough, 2, watched 10 hours of a Hong Kong television show about journalism in Hong Kong. It was great. It's called Queen of the News. Highly recommend watching it. It's entirely in Cantonese, but they had English subtitles available in the plane. It was fantastic. It was like if you've watched the morning show in the US, it was a Hong Kong version of that. And was very fascinating to learn about journalistic ethics when it in Hong Kong, which obviously has its own complexities around journalism. So that was great. I look forward to finishing the storyline in Pokemon Pokopia? I have no idea how to pronounce that. Basically, Pokemon if it had a baby with Animal Crossing and Dragon Quest builders. I know some Pokemon people that I follow that were very upset about the new thing, so I hope that you like it. You and Aaron both enjoy. Good luck with work, Aaron. Why you put work in quotes, Giovanni? It is actually work, I swear. Well, gamble away your savings in Macau. No, I will not be gambling away my savings in Macau. I don't gamble. So, but Macau is very interesting because it was ruled by the Portuguese for 400 years. And I used to live in Goa. I was working in Goa, and Goa has the same sort of thing where it's in India, but it was ruled by the Portuguese for about 400 years, back when the Portuguese were very busy snapping up various countries. And the colonial history combined with like a distinct culture, very fascinating. And so it has a lot of like Portuguese architecture in Macau, but then it's got this like Chinese influence to it. So I don't know, I think it would be interesting to just do a little tour. Also, Macau's like heyday, I mean, it's kind of come back online, but its heyday was like the 1920s, 1930s. So seems like it could be fascinating. All right, y'all, it is lovely to, oh, it's the first I've heard. Well, I'm not a Pokemon expert, so I believe you. I might be thinking of a different Pokemon thing that people are upset about because I don't know a lot about Pokemon. Okay, y'all, stay safe, stay hydrated, pet a cat if you have one available, and I will see you all soon. Bye.